What's up, New Hope family? Welcome to the Grow Podcast. My name is David. With me, as always, is Pastor Mark. We're here to help you take a next step in your relationship with Jesus. I'm so glad you're here. Hello and welcome to episode 126 of the Grow Podcast. What was old is once new again. We're back to a different format. That was the original format. It was confusing. I hope you listened a couple weeks ago and I explained all of it. But with me for the first time, as always, is Pastor Mark. Hello, Pastor Mark.
For the first time, as always.
Just got to roll with it.
Alrighty. Got that.
That's one of the things you're going to learn here on the Grow Podcast, Pastor Mark, is you're just going to have to roll with it sometimes.
I'll do my best.
This is the first episode of the third manifestation of the Grow Podcast.
Okay.
So if you are joining us today and you're wondering why that's not Pastor Leo being with me as always, you've probably missed the last few podcasts. You need to go find him on the new podcast that is the old podcast, but not the really old podcast.
Which is entitled?
Which is called The Show with No Name. Just roll with it.
Oh, got it.
We did not come up with a clever name, so it currently is called The Show with No Name. There's a link to that right now, either in the podcast notes or in the video description if you're with us on YouTube. So go find that, because we are continuing in our study of Romans, and then when we're done with Romans, we're going to continue on studying things. But we wanted to bring the Grow Podcast back to what it originally was, which was diving a little bit deeper into the sermons from the weekend. And so that's what this is going to be. However, that's not what today is going to be. So we're really going to disappoint a lot of people that were looking forward to taking a next step in their relationship with Jesus. We'll figure out some sort of next step to throw at you today. But mostly what we're going to do today is get to know Dr. Reverend Pastor Mark Butcher. What's your middle name? I want to throw that in there too.
Anthony.
Dr. Reverend Pastor Mark Anthony Butcher. Is it Marcus?
No, it's just Mark.
Can I call you Mark Antony?
I have been called that before.
That's good to know. Today is just going to be, we're going to have some fun. We haven't done one of these just have some fun podcasts in a while. In the past, we've not numbered some of them as well. This is not a special number, 126. What's your favorite memory of the number 126, Pastor Mark?
I don't
Exactly. Nobody cares
so.
about the number 126. But we've done fun things for 50. We did fun things for 100. Now we're doing a fun thing for episode 126. But why don't you, real quick, just tell us who you are? Because it's possible that somebody has been watching the Grow Podcast, but has, since we started with Pastor Mike and then with Pastor Leo, and they don't normally join us. Maybe they're not a part of our weekend celebrations here at New Hope. Who are you?
Well,
why do you exist? We'll get to that question later. I'm going to ask you some big, heavy questions.
Some time for that one. I am a retired pastor.
You're doing a really bad job at being retired.
I am really doing a bad job of being retired because it is full-time and then some that I'm experiencing here at New Hope.
You're welcome.
I was asked to come out of retirement because as we were looking for a pastor for New Hope, there was not somebody that stood out that we felt God was saying, this is the person. Mm-hmm. And so they came to me because I have done this about 8 different times in different churches. They came to me and asked if I would be interim lead pastor.
Would you rank those 8 churches from least favorite to favorite for us?
No, I won't do that. Definitely.
That's a good answer.
Right now, this is my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, that's absolutely. This is my favorite.
Solid answer.
Right now.
The good news for all of you watching at home is that Pastor Mark has now worked with me long enough where he knows to just move on from those type of questions. Ignore them.
2 months is plenty long enough. Yes.
So is that what it's been now? 2 months?
It's been just a little over 2 months.
It feels longer than that. And I don't mean that in a negative way, even though Michael off camera is aggressively nodding. We really should have had a camera on Michael for today.
But what that means is it seems like we've known each other for so long.
For generations, one might say.
Might say that.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but one might say that. All right, so this is your first time on the Grow Podcast. We didn't even have you as a special guest.
No.
We just decided to throw you into the fire. So hopefully this will ease you in a little bit before we actually expect you to impart some wisdom next week. You might accidentally impart some wisdom this week. I don't know.
It would definitely be accidental.
That's anytime I do on here. It's definitely accidental as well. You are more experienced than I am in ministry. You've got a few years on me in ministry.
I would say that is probably true.
And so
But we both are PKs.
we are both PKs.
Pastor
We
kids.
bonded over that maybe like a week or two in one day when we were just sitting and chatting.
Yep. So we
we-
both grew up with
did.
ministry all around us.
did.
That basically we grew up at the church.
Yeah, and I always have found it funny, and I'm interested if you're the same. Hopefully, for the non-PKs out there, this is interesting to you. People, I
And
get
they
asked.
understand PK is
Pastor's kid.
Yes.
Pastor's kid. We were both of our fathers were pastors.
as were my grandfathers and my grandmothers and all of my uncles and two of my aunts.
So you just went into the family business.
I kind of did. I wasn't forced into it, but God sure led me that way.
So I often in my life have got the question like, did you like being a pastor's kid? And I feel like it's an impossible question. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it's like to not be a pastor's kid is always my answer. I'm like, I liked it, but maybe I would have really liked not being a pastor's kid. I have no idea. I don't know the difference.
To me,
is that a thing you've done?
to me, it was a great honor.
Yeah.
I never felt pressured by the church people. I never felt like I had to measure up. We were taught that we are supposed to
nice.
be examples. And
Sure.
in fact, that's a lot of the standards that we had that were extra biblical standards that we were expected to do just because we are to set an example. But I didn't feel pressured by any of that.
Yeah.
It was like, this is an honor.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like maybe some increased responsibility, like you were saying, as a pastor's kid, but not like it was put on me by, people in the church, and maybe they were thinking that way and I was just too oblivious to realize what was happening as a little kid. But I always enjoyed it. I would like to hear you explain to me, what is a podcast, Pastor Mark?
Well, all of this is a learning experience
It is.
for me.
This is your first podcast.
I have a lot of experience in ministry, but not a lot of experience having things recorded and
I've got you
speaking
beat
to
in that
cameras and all of that kind of stuff.
Which in my humble opinion, you transitioned into it very easily.
Well,
This will be the only compliment of the podcast.
I was going to say,
get your hopes
if
up.
that was a compliment, then thank you.
You
very
did.
much.
I remember before we recorded the first time, I was telling you, I think your normal communication style is going to translate well on camera. And then when we did our first recording, obviously there's things you've gotten
my
better at.
communication style is normal. You're telling me.
No, that is not what I'm saying.
I didn't think that's what you were saying.
I would like to hear. So it was interesting because you were here twice in the summer. The second time you preached this last summer at New Hope, by then you knew like, okay, I'm going to be coming here. But the first time, I don't. Had you even had a conversation with Wes about being the interim
No,
yet? Okay.
no. I was just filling the pulpit
Yeah.
because he desperately needed help
Right.
with
Yeah,
somebody to do that.
Yep. And so that's what we knew as well. And so, what was from that specific week? What was your first impression of New Hope,
My first impression
or
of
impressions?
impressions.
Yeah. What did you think of us?
I was blown away by the staff.
And I wasn't here that week.
Mostly because they're so young. And I'm
Got a bunch of
thinking,
punk kids
looking
working
at
here.
my age and then meeting this staff where almost everyone is younger than my kids.
Sure.
So not quite old enough or young enough to be my grandkids, but it's like, whoa, this is interesting. Which to me, I've always loved working with people younger than me. So that was kind of like,
I don't like it at all.
That's just really a
I don't
cool
like
thing.
I don't like being one of the older people on the staff here. That really throws me off.
Which is
I
just
don't-
freaky. Knowing your age
I don't
and you're
feel-
one of the older people, that is frightening.
That's why I bring all the wisdom, Pastor.
Oh,
That's the right answer.
thank you
actually.
for that information.
So we call this podcast the Grow Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a little bit about it, but why is it important for us to grow? It's one of the 3 words in our mission. Pastors love alliteration. I don't know if you were one of those pastors, but
I did it
man,
some.
they've got to
yes,
have
but
everything's got to start with the same letter is kind of the thing. But Go, Grow, and Give do work very well, and they've been our mission and continue to be our mission. Grow is the middle one. Why is that important?
As the middle one, it comes after coming to a relationship with the Lord. So the go and
Yep.
and lost people being found.
Yep.
But then you don't just sit there and say, "Oh, I've arrived.
I did it. I went.
I've accepted God, so into my life, so everything is going to be just fine." But it's critical that we grow in our relationship with Him, which a lot of that is done with other people.
Right.
And so it's just critically important. If we're going to become more like Jesus, we've got to be spending time finding out who He is and what was valuable to Him and how He treated people, and all of that is critical for us.
Why do you think, I'm going deeper than I expected to on this this early in the podcast, why do you think we look less at, because you just said, look at how Jesus treated people, how He interacted with people. I feel like we talk a lot less about that as the church than we do, like the words, the things that He said or the things that Paul wrote or whatever, and we don't spend a lot of time on like hey, we're gonna do the next 3 weeks we're gonna talk about how Jesus treated these type of people and how He treated these type. Not that we never do, but just collectively as the church, I feel like sometimes that gets put on the back burner.
I think as I look over generations of having been a pastor, a lot more now is emphasis on what Jesus did.
Yeah.
Used to be the Bible says. Doesn't matter where you found it in the Bible, whether it's Old Testament or Levitical stuff that doesn't necessarily apply to us.
Right.
The Bible says, that settles it. And we didn't spend as much time looking at the life of Jesus. We did spend time because we all had red letter Bibles.
Right.
So we saw Jesus' words.
Okay, these are the words of Jesus.
And spent time on that more. But I think in more recent years, there's a lot more focus in the church at looking at what did Jesus do. And as we wrestle with current questions in our culture today, there's a lot more looking back at His life and how He treated people. And I just think it matters a lot more. And it's being taught more than it was in the early years of my ministry.
And would you consider that a good thing or a bad thing?
Is if Jesus does not directly address a particular issue, then people say, see, that doesn't matter.
Because He didn't specifically.
Jesus did not say this, therefore, or address this issue, therefore it doesn't matter to Him. And I don't think that that's necessarily true.
Sure, because we don't have a recording of every word He ever said and every action that He ever did.
And what he was saying was very specific to the situations that he was in.
Yeah.
It's applicable to us today, but it was not specifically addressing 21st century issues.
What do you think Jesus thinks of podcasts? Because he's older than you are,
Yes, he is. Not by much, but definitely is older than
He's got
me.
you by a couple of years at least.
And I would say, quite literally, anything that gets the gospel out there helps people come to a relationship with Jesus and grow. He's saying go for it. And we've seen that in generations all the way through from the time of Jesus. As technology has developed, the first reaction is, oh no, what the bad stuff that this brings in. But then the second reaction is always, well, how can we use this to advance the kingdom of God? And so, he'd be very much in favor of it.
I feel like Paul would have been a podcaster, like smuggling a camera and a microphone into prison and sending out some recordings to the churches. I like that idea. All right, let's get to know you a little bit. Okay. What do you do for fun? You love sports. You're a huge sports guy,
not
right?
At all a sports guy. I am ignorant when it comes to sports and always have been. But
much to the chagrin of one of your sons.
Yes. My oldest son is very much a Twins fan.
What's his name? Give me his name again.
Clayton.
Go Twins, Clayton.
So, but for me, what I enjoy doing, I enjoy recreational stuff, just not sports stuff. So like hiking, kayaking, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. Those are all things that I have enjoyed doing.
Did you get to do any hiking in Teddy Roosevelt National Park before the frozen tundra arrived?
Yes, I got out there one time after getting here because I got here kind of late. And my idea,
that's true.
Me, I do not like cold.
68 degrees is a little too cold for you to go outside.
Yes, it's too cold to be going out. You need at least 75 to go hiking. So yes, I did get out at least one time to do that. My hobby in my retirement years is art. I have an art business,
That's why you
And-
like my wife more than me, because she's an artist.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the
Well,
many reasons.
yeah, that's
We're not
probably
gonna
not
go
the
into that
main
list
reason
right now,
But yes,
Pastor
that
Mark.
that would play into it. And so I do mostly stained glass and have that in about 6 galleries in the Black Hills, which is where I'm from, Rapid City area. And so that's what keeps me busy in my retirement when they don't call me out of retirement either to pastor churches or to run camps as well. I've done that.
Oh man, you don't find children exhausting, is what I'm hearing. You agreed to run camps.
It
That
was
is
the
my
administration
nightmare.
of the camps that I was running.
So you could pop your head in and be like, yeah, kids.
Yes.
And then you're like, yeah, I got out of here.
Yes,
Okay,
I
that's-
could get in and holler and
I'll allow that.
whoop it up with them and get them all excited and walk away and leave them for the counselors to have to deal
Smart.
with them.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty smart. I like that. All right, this is a question that won't set you up in a negative way at all. So just answer it immediately without even thinking about it. You've been at New Hope for a couple months now. Who's your favorite coworker? This is where we will edit audio of him saying David in, and then I'm just going to move on. No, I don't want you to answer that question.
Okay.
Wow, you were about
to answer it. I was going to say, since I am with you at this point, right now you're my favorite.
Yes.
Yes.
Michael's in the room too. I feel
And
like
when
that's a
I'm
little
with
hurtful.
Michael,
Oh,
he's
okay.
my favorite. Yeah.
I have a question from Hattie that
Oh, boy.
she considered to be very important. Pastor Hattie would like to know. I don't understand. To clarify, I had nothing to do with this question, nor do I understand this question. But she would like to know your method of eating a cupcake.
My method of eating a cupcake.
Yep. Could you
Okay,
look into
that
that
is-
camera right there and really mime it for us? Would be great.
Well, what I would have to do, cupcakes, you just kind of peel the thing off and just eat it
Just
from the
shovel
side.
it.
But a muffin is entirely
Oh,
different.
please break this down for
Oh,
us.
yes. A muffin is so different because it has the muffin top.
It does.
And the top goes over the paper. So you got to peel the paper off same way as you would
Sure.
with a cupcake.
So the start is the same.
But then you break them apart carefully.
This is good.
So it comes into 2 pieces.
Yep.
You always eat the bottom piece first.
Could not agree with you more.
Always.
I've
eat the bottom
agreed with a
piece
lot
first.
of things you've said as the pastor here in 2 months. This might be can I give you an amen right now?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah,
amenable?
this is-
Amen, Pastor.
And then
Yep.
the top, which has the crunchier, and
the
all of
best.
that, that's what you eat last.
Strongly
Because I
agree.
always, in all of my
Strongly
eating,
agree.
I eat what I like least
First. Save
and
the
then
best.
end with what I
I'm the same way.
really like
Yep.
afterwards.
I'm the same way. This that came back to bite me, however, as I got beyond playing sports, so I couldn't eat as much anymore. So when I was in college playing basketball, I could eat as much food as I wanted, and I did not look like this. I was skinny like you, and I'll go get a whole pizza and eat the whole thing. And clearly, one of the slices is better than all the others, and you save that one for last. You save the best couple slices for last. But then I got to the point where I can't eat that much pizza all at once anymore. Not only can I not, I also should not eat that much pizza at one time anymore. But I can't break the habit of saving that's the best slice. That will be my last slice. And then the best slice goes uneaten, and it's devastating.
It came back to bite me in a way too.
Please
when
share.
I was in college, I did an internship in a little church in South Dakota, and I stayed in the home of an elderly couple. And she was typical farm gal and lady.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yes.
How old was this couple
How old
that you
was-
just called elderly?
Kind of about my
Okay.
age now.
Sorry, please continue.
Yes, that is. You should be sorry
Yeah.
for that one. And so she made these big meals for me all the time,
that must
and
have been
so
great.
she'd dish up my plate for me, and give me stuff, and so I would eat what I didn't like, and I was a fairly picky eater.
Yeah.
Like squash, she was like.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
that
with
just
you on that
and
one.
so I would eat the squash off of my plate and then go to potatoes and then meat or whatever. But she
would notice.
Oh yes, she was so attentive that as soon as there was no squash on my plate, she
replaced.
was dishing up more for me. I had to go, okay, I've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
I have to eat what I like first because that's not working.
Yeah, that's a puzzle you need to solve quickly.
Yes, I did solve it very quickly.
Just go right to the mashed potatoes. Be like, oh, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And so's the gravy. I guess there better be more of that. Thanksgiving, when we're recording this, Thanksgiving is coming up. When this airs, I think Thanksgiving will just have passed.
Okay.
But your favorite item of food from the Thanksgiving feast?
Favorite?
You can do and one from the meal and one dessert. Like you can
cardboard pizza.
Cardboard pizza? What are you talking about?
Well,
what?
That question was posed to my 3-year-old son in preschool.
Okay.
What is your favorite meal for Thanksgiving? And his answer was cardboard pizza.
And then they called Child Protective Services because they thought you were feeding your kids cardboard.
We would buy the cheap Totino's or
frozen
Geno's
pizza that have the
frozen
little piece of
pizzas that
cardboard
have
under.
the cardboard on the bottom of it. And so that was always our joke. That,
Cardboard
cardboard pizza is what we want.
I have never heard them called cardboard pizza before.
We
but that is
hadn't either
fantastic.
until Trevor
in his
informed
brain,
us
that's what
it
it was.
was.
I'm gonna need your answer. Not your
my
son's, though.
answer?
From the Thanksgiving meal. You know,
I like the combination, and
Okay,
it's the
that's
only
okay.
time I like mixing stuff because I don't mix my foods.
Okay.
But you got to put the gravy over the mashed potatoes, over the turkey, and over the dressing, and that together, that combination together is what I like.
You just answered my next question. I was going to ask if you call it dressing or stuffing, but now I
think
have
I
the
call
answer.
it dressing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dessert. Do you have a favorite pie? And why is it pumpkin pie?
I don't know that I have a favorite.
All right, well,
it just depends.
that's not
Apple,
correct. It's
pumpkin
pie.
or
Hold on.
chocolate.
Apple pumpkin or apple,
no.
pumpkin?
Any of those three at various times.
Okay. Because we've discovered you're a very interesting eater in the 2 months where you just eat constantly.
I do.
But you don't care what it is.
That's
it doesn't
true.
really matter if it tastes like it can't taste gross, I'm sure, but
right. But I'm not particular at all. No.
And you're blown away that someone would, for instance, if I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I toast the bread first, you're like, what are you doing? What a waste of time. Waste of time.
I do not cook.
I pressed a button.
And I do not prep food. If I can just go eat it, then I'm great. Yeah. But I do not.
So do you have any cardboard pizzas in your freezer?
I do have cardboard pizzas in my freezer.
At your Williston home right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Because I don't do. I mean, that's the most cooking I do is put that in
pressing 425
Yep.
start. Do you wait for the oven to preheat? Before you put the pizza. Okay,
yes.
I thought you might be not.
Oh no, I'm a very patient person. Yeah.
I have a question from Hattie as well. She wants to hear the worst or most embarrassing thing you've said in a sermon ever in your career. And I also want to hear that, which is why I'm asking it. And if you can't, if you can't think of the worst, just come up with something for the people. The people want to hear you share your embarrassing stories.
I'm trying to think of anything embarrassing.
You've never screwed up. You're just that good of a preacher. You've always nailed it.
No, that is not the case. But I'm just trying to think of something that was embarrassing, and
it doesn't have to be embarrassing. It could just be like a big mistake you made up on stage.
Well, one of the questionable things that I did was a sermon illustration and talking about the sacrifices that were made and how when somebody brought a sacrifice, I mean, it was just totally given and it's burned up. It's not like I get any benefit out of it. Some of the sacrifices, they actually were allowed to eat parts of it. But some of it was just, this is given to God, and so I get no benefit out of it. Whereas like today in church, I'm giving my tithe and I expect the church to do stuff that I want them to, that kind of a mindset. So I was trying to help people understand it's not about you. And so I had the treasurer come up.
Okay.
And I had him burn a dollar bill.
Ooh.
And say, now it's just like giving this to the Lord. It's not been used for anything, just like the sacrifice. It's just because we want to give to God. Then I pulled out $100 bill. It was my $100 bill.
Yeah, not the church's
Not the
$100
church's $100 bill. And I asked him to burn it, and he could not do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely no way could he do it. So I had to burn it myself. But I had several people concerned, wondering if that was legal, because
Defacing
currency, and that I might get in trouble with the law or something over all of that.
So after your 8-year stint in prison following that,
yes,
that when
I got out of prison, we decided, let's not do that one again.
Was it, okay, so have you ever had a sermon analogy cost you more money than that one?
No, that one cost
that was your
me
most expensive
absolutely the most, and I made sure it was mine and not the church's, so that I wouldn't get fired right away.
I'm going to take a note quick. Because when you end up leaving us, and hopefully we find the future lead pastor for the long term at New Hope, I think I would like to ask them, what was your most expensive sermon analogy ever, and see if they've ever burned money on stage.
I think I will win.
Yes, I don't think there's any question. How long ago was this? Because we probably have to factor in inflation, and if this was like a long time
ago, around 2000.
So not anything too crazy.
Like 2008, 2009, right, somewhere around there.
Nothing too crazy. All right, I want to hear your favorite restaurant in Williston. For those that join us on the Grow podcast in Williston, not the Grow Padcast. I'm not from Boston. The Grow Podcast. What's your favorite restaurant that you've eaten at here? And then I've got just a couple more, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, probably Reyes.
Very good.
Because that was one of the first ones that somebody took me to, and I like Mexican food, being from Southern California originally. I like that kind of food. So
Michael has a question for you. He actually had a few questions. Some of them I'm going to skip, but
thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to ask two of his though, briefly, not in like a 45-minute diatribe, but just tell us briefly how you met your wife Paula, who is wonderful, and we love her.
That is a really long story of our dating experience. But
right.
I will
Don't
just
go
tell
into
you
all those details.
How we met. We were both at Bartlesville Wesleyan College, which is now Oklahoma Wesleyan College.
Okay.
Or Oklahoma Wesleyan University now.
Oakwoo, as they would say.
Right. We met there, and we were both in the choir, and so we traveled together and got to know each other that way. And her dad was the academic dean, and I needed all the academic help I could get. So.
Good call. Good call. Okay, in college then.
Yes.
College. Could have just said in college, but you're a pastor. And another question Michael had, which I enjoyed. What's your favorite Bible story? I like that question. Michael, that's an excellent question. Props to you.
My favorite Bible character, I will tell you, is Esther.
Okay.
Most guys will pick, David or Peter or John or Joseph or something like that.
Well, you're so enlightened.
But mine is Esther, simply from the fact of the passage that says God has placed you here for such a time as this. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of the way I have seen God lead me over the 50 years that I've been preaching, is that he puts me where he wants me, and I'm here for such a time as this. That's the way I feel about being here at New Hope. Is they're going to get an awesome pastor that's going to be coming at some point, but until that happens, God wants me here for such a time as this. It's not by accident. It is because I am needed here, and I need this place.
That was a very good answer. I was really hoping you were going to say Ehud stabbing the fat king, and he was so fat that the sword swallowed it, and they didn't know that he had been stabbed, because I've really been trying to get a pastor to preach on that pretty much my whole life, since I probably first read that story, and I was like, maybe my dad will preach on that sometime. So feel free to mix that in while you're here. If you can't, we'll figure it out. But
I will check and see if I have a message on that already. I might have preached on
you may have preached
that.
on it before. Okay, I would love that. He's my favorite judge.
I enjoy preaching on obscure passages
that
people
that's
ignore,
about
and that's as obscure as you can get.
All right, I like that. Well, I appreciate that. I do. I like that answer. It was a very good answer, even though it wasn't technically a Bible story.
Yeah.
But I'll count it.
Well, it's a story of Esther.
If I was a teacher or a professor and you were doing an essay question, I would still give you like 8 out of 10 probably, because you elaborated and you even though you didn't really answer the question I was asking for. That was how I passed a lot of my classes when I was in school. I don't know this answer, but I will write a lot and you will probably give me partial credit. But I did like that answer, and I appreciate the mindset of it, and I think all of us at New Hope feel very similarly that clearly God brought you here, and we've very much appreciated having you here. It's been a huge blessing to us, and I've heard the same from a lot of non-staff people here, just members of our New Hope family.
Well, one of the things that I think God has blessed me with, an ability that I have, is to get to know people quickly and build relationships quickly. So to do the kind of work that I do as an interim, that's critical to happen, and I think that's something that I do well.
I would agree. And relationships are apparently important. Hattie keeps telling me that community is important.
Yes.
So
It matters.
Yeah, it does. And it really does. And I really quickly want to talk to all of you, because those of you who've been joining us in the Grow Podcast the last 23-ish episodes with Pastor Leo, we've built this really, really awesome community where we're jumping into the comments and we're talking with each other, we're learning from each other. And I don't want that to stop. I want it to carry over to the show with no name, which is where we're continuing the Bible studies. There's not a whole lot of like deep things to dive into this week, but still jump in the comments, say hi, say what's up to Pastor Mark. He's like crazy good at remembering people's names. So if your name is like your YouTube handle, he'll probably be like, "Oh, you commented 6 months ago on my video."
But you are constantly harassing me about my memory.
I would never
that I don't remember stuff.
You sometimes have to be reminded of things, but usually those things are my fault because I'm adding more things for you to record. And,
I'm glad we have this on record.
That I'm blaming myself. Yes, but anyway, we really want that, and Pastor Leo and I talked about it the last couple of weeks too. But we want that community to continue. So keep jumping into the comments on YouTube and talking to one another and continuing to grow. We say it a lot at New Hope that we grow best when we're in community. We don't say that because it's a fun tagline, although it's a pretty good tagline. I don't know who came up with it. I think I probably say it the most on camera, so I'm going to take credit for it. But it definitely wasn't me. But it's just reality. It's how God created us to grow together, to learn from one another. Yeah. And so that's part of the reason why we have this podcast, why it's a conversational podcast, so that we're here and we want you to be a part of that conversation. So continue doing that. Continue jumping into the comments and talking with us, asking us questions. I'll get Pastor Mark to jump into the comments every once in a while and respond to any questions that you might have. Well, before we wrap up, Pastor Mark, do you have any questions for me? Because this is the last time you don't get to ask me. Pastor Mike was very rude, and he would ask me questions. I was like, no, my role here is the asker of questions, not the answerer of questions. And I'm sure you'll probably do that a couple times too. But do you have any thoughts,
point,
any questions?
I do not have
You're just
any
ready to not be making a podcast anymore. I make you sit in front of a camera so many times.
Yes, this is just great growing experience for me.
I'm stretching you. Mm-hmm. It's biblical. Probably.
So you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, I would never. Oh, how dare you? No, I'm very excited to be doing the Grow Podcast with you, Pastor Mark. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of us to continue to be able to have that ongoing conversation about your sermons afterwards. I know I've missed that, even though I've loved the Grow Podcast. Again, that's why we're now doing 2 podcasts, because we really loved the old format, but we've also really loved the Bible study format with Pastor Leo. And so if you weren't listening at the beginning, we're not live, so you shouldn't have missed it. But if you usually just skip past whatever I say at the beginning, that's actually a likely thing. Don't skip past what I'm saying here at the end, because we have a new podcast. It's called The Show with No Name. You can find a link to it in the description or the podcast notes. That's where we're continuing our study in the book of Romans with Pastor Leo, and then we'll pick a new book and we'll keep doing a Bible study in that. This is going back to the old format of diving deeper into the message, so that's why Pastor Mark is here. I think I've said everything. Michael, anything else I need to say that I haven't said Michael shrugged, and a shrug is as good as I'm going to get from Michael. So I think we're good. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, go subscribe to the new one as well. If you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you subscribe to both of them so you get notified when new episodes go live. If you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to get notified every time we put videos up. We got a lot of cool stuff up there. Our amazing worship team has a bunch of videos up there. Videos from our night of worship are going to be going up. Our most recent night of worship are going to be going up there soon. All the messages you can always find on there, all sorts of good stuff. So subscribe on YouTube as well. And then come back next time, because next week we'll be diving into your first message in our new series that's leading up to Christmas. Thanksgiving is now past. I accept emotionally that it's Christmas time. I should have asked you that. When does Christmas season start?
Not till after Thanksgiving.
God bless you, Pastor Mark. You're my favorite pastor we've ever had. And Pastor Mike, I love you too, but that's the correct answer. So Thanksgiving is past. It's Christmas time. We're gonna have a really, really cool series that's leading up to Christmas time, or to Christmas Day itself. So make sure you're joining us for that, and then come back as we dive deeper into those. We love you, New Hope family. Thank you, Pastor Mark. This was
pleasure.
fun for me, at least. Hopefully for you. And we will see you guys next time.